Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Darkness in Dublin. A scene tonight is being held for the Demon venue. As the events of the Eldritch incursion upon the world, as cultists take to opening gates and trying to bring about the end of the world, there are a number of beings of an infernal nature who are perhaps holding a bit closer to home, looking to protect what they have. Their numbers too few to affect any major change. And while perhaps a number of outliers certainly step forward, not many of the infernal persuasion have yet stood up to add their strength, their voice, their talents to the threat that is Lord Ishar. But that isn't to say that the infernal courts are doing nothing. With the threat of a major entity looming over the city, those of an infernal persuasion perhaps found it a bit easier to operate, to move, without fear of attracting attention of old, ancient rivals and more contemporary dangers. As a number of the fallen had encountered mysterious figures that absconded away with valuable information and bodies from a recent church fire, others have been slowly making their presence known. One such, a busy little bee, has been seeking out the various members of the former court. She has made contact with several and given them a location to arrive at. And with luck, a number of individuals will step forward, hoping to meet this member of the first house who offers a pact of mutual support and protection. We start our scene as the messenger, known as Casey Becker, sits outside of a relatively normal looking home in the middle of suburbia, so to speak. A house that sits a bit away from the others, but not so far that one couldn't have a conversation over a stone fenced wall. And in the summer heat, she wears little more than a tank top and a pair of pants as she sits there smoking, rocking back and forth on a chair, looking out at the stars above as and wondering exactly when the seeds that she has sown will begin to grow. And this is where we start our scene.
And so one seed blooms. There is the click of heels as Maggie starts to, with very much purpose, starts to go inside. I'm guessing this is the picture I'm looking at is where Maggie's walking into.
No.
No, oh, that has such good atmosphere.
Now this is just a picture of the church from the last scene, which I feel is a nice set piece.
Oh man, where's
And it's
Maggie walking?
really hard to find satisfactory pictures that I wanted for houses in Dublin.
That's fair. So is this like a mansion?
It's not really a mansion as it is just kind of for an American taste, it's probably about a single family home.
Huh.
A
Okay.
McMansion maybe,
So
but it's not huge. It's not an estate.
okay, so when I imagine a single family home, I mean, I'm thinking a tiny little house.
Imagine it a 3-story house, but only two above ground, with a garage, a bit of a yard with a fence, a gate at the driveway. Probably hosts
Okay.
about six bedrooms, maybe two
Okay.
baths, 2.5 baths.
All right. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So there's the click of heels on the driveway leading up to the door. Maggie's carrying an umbrella with her. No, she's not carrying an umbrella. She has this magnificent hat on. This magnificent hat can block out the sun.
Well, the messenger that had randomly found you, seemingly out of the sea of people that could potentially be around Maggie at any given point during the day, sits there clad very casually and picks up a glass, a sweating glass of what looks to be perhaps tea of some kind. And she'll sit forward in the rocking chair towards the railing to get a good look at Maggie. Well, it's good to see that somebody accepted the invitation. I was beginning to think that perhaps many of you were a bit too timid or perhaps spurned in the past to accept an invitation to a mysterious benefactor.
Many of our courts are very careful. We mean no disrespect, however. Sudden invitations can come off as a bit suspicious.
Well, you're not wrong.
Oh, what was that she said? Uh,
You're not wrong.
so she'll shrug. She'll take off her sunglasses, um, revealing her golden brown eyes. A bit more gold than regular brown eyes are supposed to be.
Her golden eyes flecked with green, meet your own. Well, I believe your name is Maggie, yes?
Yes.
Oh, Maggie. There are individuals inside that would like to meet you.
All right. Best not to keep them waiting, right?
I wouldn't, but that's me.
Fair enough.
And does Maggie go inside?
Yeah.
Okay. Maggie, you step inside a home. It's fairly cozy, fairly basic. Um, it has what looks to be an accumulated number of decades worth of art and knickknacks and decor. Um, as you walk into sort of like the main living area, you see couches with a sectional couch and a couple of chairs, plush chairs, and quilts hung over the back of each. You look off to your left and you see sort of a casual dining room um, with tables set around, magazines stacked in the center, caddy cornered china hutches. You look further back down the main hallway. You can see the stairwell and sort of a more a more proper dining room and sort of like a breakfast area that seems to be attached to an open air kitchen. As you step in, you see a few figures in the main living area. You see a large man sitting in one of the plush chairs, sitting there with what looks to be a newspaper in hand, currently reading. He's wearing what look to be like dress slacks and shoes. Um, he's wearing like a navy blue button up shirt, though the sleeves have since been rolled up. There's no tie, and the shirt is open enough that you can see the white tank top underneath, just below the collarbone. And you can see what looks to be a cup of steaming tea on the table next to the arm of the chair. And as you walk in, he sort of lowers the paper, kind of peers at you for a moment, and then sort of just gestures with his head for you to continue back into the deeper into the house.
Alrighty. So she'll keep on moving then if that's the case.
And you see in that more formal dining room what you would expect. Uh, Rather expensive looking table that has what looks to be like set places that don't really ever move from where they were or where they're placed. Chairs with one large chair at the head of the table. But you also see a second set of stairs that lead down. And you don't see anybody in the kitchen or in that dining room, so you figure that maybe it's safe to assume down is the way to go.
Alrighty.
As you make your way down, the temperature begins to drop considerably. At first, it feels like um, the AC is just pumped really high, and the basements are relatively almost always cooler than the rest of the house. But as you descend further, it gets colder and colder until you see a puff of breath exit out from your nose and your lips as you walk. And the stairs go on for quite a while, longer than you might have expected. You continue to walk, and the stairs sort of seamlessly shift from your standard wooden stairs into cobblestone. Um, and the walls become a matching arrangement of like an arched stairwell. And rather than light fixtures, they're simply wall sconces that burn with what look to be uh, torches.
Maggie does her best to remind herself that it's not old school, it's vintage.
Well, you continue walking down, and just for the hell of it, go ahead and make me a Dex Athletics because you are walking down cobblestone stairs in heels.
Give me a moment. It's been a while since I've made a roll. I have to find the Discord. There we go. Ah, 6 and a 7.
It wasn't a high diff. It was like you have all the successes. Just seeing
Okay.
if maybe you might have botched. You navigate down it, without trouble. And as you descend what feels to be maybe six or seven, the equivalent of six or seven stories, you finally come out into sort of a large, what looks to be like the interior of a cathedral. Those large vaulted ceilings with buttresses and supports. As you look up, you see a mural painted on the dome of what looks to be a depiction of some sort of uh, war of winged beings. All of them beautiful and wonderful to look at. Uh, the walls are lined with stained glass windows, which seem to be dark. Um, Aside from a slight illumination on the other side that seems to be in uh, each one a different color: red, green, blue, um, orange, violet. About uh, about six in total on either, or I guess it would be 12 total because it is sort of more like a rotunda room. But each one of them has a different color behind it, sort of glowing. And the room looks a bit like it. There's a large desk on one end where there is a number of about 15-foot tall shelves behind. You see various archways set into the walls that lead into other chambers. And you see tapestries that look ancient, but not in a state of disrepair. And sitting on the desk itself, one leg crossed over the other at the ankle, sort of resting against it rather than directly sitting on it, I suppose. You see one individual with a looks to be a leather-bound tome in hand, flipping through it, um, licking their finger as they flip one page to the next. And as you come to the final landing, they look up and offer you a smile. And I suppose you are one of the infernals here in the city, are you not?
Some people have called me Infernal.
Some people. What do most call you?
Most people call me Maggie.
Well, Maggie, I am Emmanuel. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
You as well.
And they will gesture towards a set of chairs that sit near a fireplace.
And she will go ahead and sit on down.
So, Maggie, tell me a bit about yourself, if you don't mind sharing.
Well, hmm, I've recently started getting into world of finance lately. I've had to take over for my late husband. Rest in peace. But this means that I do spend quite a bit of time with numbers and such, and I'll admit I'm still improving on it, but that's part of life, isn't it?
One aspect of it, yes.
My normal dealings and my talents lend me very well to making the deals that I need to make. However,
And what sort of deals do you make, Maggie?
sometimes I make a deal to manage an account. Sometimes I make a deal to make someone beautiful again. It depends.
Beautiful again. Interested in unpacking that. How do you mean?
I think this place can have a nasty habit of grinding people down. And, well, sometimes they need a bit of help to get back the. How was it one? How was it told to me that one time? Right. Get their shine back.
I see. And they stand up and they look at you. You don't strike me as a flesh crafter.
No, nothing of the sort.
I look at you and I see. I see elements that I am familiar with. I see past the facade. You are. How can I put this? You have the air of the celestials around you.
I wouldn't deny that. No, it's definitely true.
So then you and I are of one house then.
That is what it seems, yes.
Well then, Maggie of the first house. How have you been finding life outside the pit?
Better. I don't remember very much of it. I just remember hmm, the anger. The anger is very vivid. Overall, this place, it's even though it's muted, it's interesting to have a different perspective.
And how are you reconciling the two halves of your being?
At the moment, it's far more beneficial and useful for me to simply be Maggie rather than be, well, who I think I was. I remember so little. All I remember is a name and some events.
Is it your goal to know more?
I would like to.
And what else would you like?
As interested as I am in learning more about the past, I'd like to thrive in my present and future as well. And I think that's why you came and invited me here as well.
What exactly do you think is my reasoning for inviting strangers into my home?
The same reason I would do something like this. You want to take stock of who and what you have and what you're going to have to deal with in the coming days.
You're not entirely wrong. By rights, I have no justification for inserting myself in here and calling myself a tyrant. I'm reluctant to do so. I was never one of any great standing in the times before the pit. Just an officer. But I have known how to lead our kind. I have understood that any leader needs to be willing to not only be able to be relied upon, but to be able to be trusted. And more importantly, they need to be able to trust the people that stand with them, rather than entering into a void of power and simply claiming it. Because I believe that there are few to none that could challenge me, I feel perhaps it's better to do things a bit of a different way. Perhaps move away from a completely feudalistic view of how we should and shouldn't interact with our own kind.
There are many that would argue that borders on Maggie chuckles to herself. Heresy.
Well, considering the genesis of our current situation, I would say that heresy runs deep in the blood, would you not?
Absolutely.
So, Maggie, here we are, a few heretics sitting, conversing, speaking of a world that perhaps at least one of us would like to craft and the other one at least finds amusing. If someone of sufficient power were to step forward, offer out their hand in mutual respect to those that have already dwelled within the city, what do you think individuals might respect in return for their fealty, their loyalty, their trust?
For the individuals here, they would need a concrete demonstration because there are some, one in particular, that are very slow to trust, and words aren't going to help with them. You want something like that if you're going for fealty and loyalty and trust and respect. This is all quite impressive. It is. But it wouldn't be enough to convince them.
And what do you think that they would require? A gesture or a demonstration of power or good faith?
Those two things can overlap. After all, too much force can lead to resentment, but too much faith can lead to a perception of weakness.
So the tricky question is then, where does that middle ground sit?
If it were me, I would find a mutual enemy between myself and the rest of the infernals in the city, kill it, destroy it, otherwise render it harmless, and make that offering to the court. Oh, but I apologize for my vulgarity.
What makes you think that that is a vulgarity?
Ladies such as myself should not talk so casually of killing one's enemies and using them as a trophy.
Hmm.
She smiles.
But you and I both know that the lady is a facade.
She is. But sometimes the facade is nice. Sometimes it gives you an angle that you hadn't had previously.
Well, perhaps it does. Almost certainly it does, I would say, as we all rely on our facades to not be like those who are without it and free from the pit.
Right, see?
I'm sorry, what?
She says, right, you see?
Hmm. They go back to their desk and they sit and they sort of stroke their chin with their fingers. Well, there is the threat of the one known as Aisha, which seems to be a thorn in everyone's side, but I am loath to commit anyone to a cause such as that. If their kind do strike down onto this world, we know that we will not cease to be. We will return to the place where we are meant to be, and we must wait until something replaces it. And what is eternity to those of us that have already suffered through it once already?
I will say the idea of dealing with it again doesn't sound very appealing.
Well, nothing about the pit is appealing, but Neither is anything with what is currently looming over the city at all appealing. And what lights that I've glimpsed from on high in this city, there are far too few candles burning to create an inferno strong enough to purge an ulcer or a tumor such as that.
And we can at the very least lend our help to those that do have light strong enough for that.
They rub their chin again. A grand gesture of power and trustworthiness. That's what I would require to be able to lay claim to what has been left in the wake of another.
That's what my guess would be.
How many of these infernals here do you know?
I know of, I want to say, 5 in any meaningful capacity.
Tell me a bit about them. Help me put a dossier together on each so that I might better be able to converse with them.
The one, I'll get the hard one out of the way. There's one that I believe you may already know of, named Leo.
Say that again?
There's one I believe you already know of. Her name is Leo. It's spelled
I've,
Lile, but that sausage
yeah,
out Leo.
I am not completely familiar with the individual, only by name.
No conversation that you have with her will be pleasant.
I see. A
Highly
tough hand
likely,
to grindstone, then.
more than likely. I've considered knocking her down a peg more than once, but
And what talents does she exhibit?
shouting.
Hmm. And is this one all bluster, no bite?
I'm unsure. The one time I saw her in a well, I saw her in the aftermath of the fight. One of the other infernals that I met named Luna, I believe, almost beat her to death. On accident, of course.
Leal beat Luna to death, or Luna beat Leal almost to death?
Luna beat Leo almost to death.
Interesting. Have you
Yeah,
ever seen this Leal step forward against a power considerably greater than their own?
I haven't seen it, but I do know she's done it before. There's multiple people in the court that can attest to that.
And how has this Leal dealt with the proverbial hammer being dropped upon them?
Generally, anger.
So is there no means to appease this one aside from giving it all that it requires?
At the very least, mm, if you don't get in her way, she is unlikely to get in yours.
And what does she view as in her way?
Directly trying to prevent her from taking a course of action. She may be a bit unpleasant, but she's relatively benign as long as she gets to do whatever she does.
Hmm. So perhaps one part rabid dog, one part petulant child, or one part headstrong gallivant.
But what I've seen, all of the above. I will say though, once you've earned her loyalty, you're unlikely to ever lose it. It's just getting it that's the hard part.
Hmm. Well, interesting, interesting, interesting. What about this Luna?
I've only met her once. There's not very much I'd like to. There's not very much I can say about her. Despite her rather violent demonstration, it seems like she genuinely does not want to hurt anyone.
Hmm. I see. So, two potential combative individuals, but one that doesn't have a stomach for violence and one that only resorts to it when they can't have what they want directly in front of them.
Based on everything I've seen, yes.
And what about the next? The third individual?
I only know him by his nickname, which is Carnage.
Interesting. You go on.
I think he's some kind of fighter, pretty clearly. I unfortunately don't have an idea of his capabilities yet. I haven't really seen any of them fight.
Hmm.
Heavy smoker, but at the same time, very easygoing.
I see, I see, I see. And what of the fourth?
The fourth is an odd case. His he doesn't know his mortal name, but I'm fairly certain, if I remember correctly, he is a slayer. I see him quite often, well, sleeping under benches and such. Stayed with me for a while. Figured I could be my good deed.
And what name do they go by?
Out of respect for his person, I can't tell you his full name, but I can at least shorten it down to Haz, if that's good.
What do you refer to him as?
Me personally, I refer to him as homeless guy or hobo.
How uncouth. But a Slayer, all the same. And the fifth.
Damn, honestly, can't remember the fifth. But I know it was. I can't remember Jesse's character's name.
How well would Maggie remember it, do you think?
Um, they did get a pretty solid face-to-face introduction. She would probably have remembered his name, at least his first name, because it started with the C.
Cyril?
Cyril, yeah.
I'm gonna assume that's how it's pronounced.
We'll go with Cyril, for at least right now.
Okay.
Um, so say the last one I knew was Cyril. Seems to be down with Leo. Also, one of the people that can talk her down, relatively speaking.
And is that their only their only ability to talk down our resident Spitfire?
He's the only one I've seen do so effectively.
Let's see. And if you were to gain his loyalty, would the other follow suit?
Hesitantly. Possibly reluctantly, but probably.
Hmm. Interesting city of beings. Even with only a slight, even with only a slight peel back of the curtain, these five individuals are, not, if nothing else, interesting. Let me ask you, Maggie, in the position that I find myself in and the goals that I wish to set forward that I presented to you, how would you deal with the current threat of Lord Ishar?
He's a thorn in my side. Well, I'm not exactly the most subtle of my house. Would likely just break the thorn. And if I couldn't break the thorn, find someone else to break the thorn. If they couldn't break the thorn, I would get as many people as I could together so we could all break the thorn.
You are a member of my house. It was our duty to take the word from on high and deliver it out to those of our brothers and sisters of other houses. Would you like to fulfill this role once again?
Maggie does think on it really hard. And then finally she'll say, I need to get back into the swing of things anyway. What would be required of me?
I wish for you to make contact with these 5 individuals. Tell them that the individual who wishes a pact of mutual support and protection is offering out a great reward for those that step forward against this threat, and that they will not enter battle alone. Tell them that the sword of the evening star will once again find its way onto the battlefield.
Would you like that verbatim, or would you like that paraphrased?
As close to verbatim as you can get.
Very well.
But if you have a flair for the dramatic, take artistic liberties if you need to.
Very well then. I'll see into contacting those that I can. Some of them are just plain hard to find.
Well, serve me well in this, and I will see to it, of course, that you receive proper compensation. And they walk back over to their desk and open a drawer, and they return with a small felt covered box and open it. They pull out a ring, place it into their palm, and hand it over.
Yeah, Maggie will take the ring, looking at it curiously.
As you take it, you feel a sudden surge of energy, of sort of of power. You feel as though this rush, as long as you are in contact with this ring, somehow amplifies you to an extent. On an out of character level, you feel your faith rise up by 1 point.
Hey, I'll take it.
That's your permanent faith, by the way.
Awesome. Alrighty.
As you were the first to make your way forward, there are certain rewards that I will offer, and being of my own house, I am more apt to give you the benefit of the doubt, at least upon first meeting. Know, though, that if you decide to don that ring, as long as you wear it, you are considered one of the blades of the evening star. My compatriots and I follow this banner, and we have for some time.
Understood then.
I will be keeping my eye on you, Maggie. Serve me well, and I can see to it that you are made into more than just your ethereal shell.
Thank you. And, I suppose we'll see you then.
Now, while wearing this ring, you will also be able to enter into this sanctum. Without it, you'll enter into what is essentially a man cave, unless invited specifically.
Hmm.
However, I wouldn't knock the foosball table by any means, if that's your sort of thing.
I didn't catch that last part. I'd rather not something.
She wouldn't knock, or they wouldn't knock the foosball table though,
Okay, that's
if
fair.
that's your sort of thing. Yeah.
So there's
If
that.
you enjoy, yeah, if you enjoy the foosball table inside a man cave, then by all means, don't wear the ring when you walk down the stairs. Now, I do believe you have work to do.
I do.
Then set forward, Maggie, and may the light of the evening star light your way.
She will nod to them and start heading on out.
All right, then. I think that's where we'll end our scene. So thank you, player, for playing, and thank you, watchers, for watching.